Voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160. Gorgeous sunny morning. AccuWeather says partly cloudy and 82 degrees today. We're at 63 in downtown Indiana right now. He is State Representative Jim Struzzi, joining us here and on Facebook, and you can watch him. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Todd.
Summertime, it's kind of hard to catch people in the summertime because, and especially now in August, it's their last chance to get away before the fall really ramps up. Your summer, I presume, going well?
It's been very busy, actually. We've been back in the district here since we passed the budget at the end of June. I've learned that in my second session as state representative for the 62nd legislative district that you really start to dig in on your legislation. You reintroduce legislation that you tried to push in your first term, and in the second term, you understand that there's a lot of partnerships, a lot of relationships that have to occur to massage bills to make them something that's acceptable to the majority of our General Assembly so that the bill can actually move through and get signed into law. So I've been conducting a lot of behind-the-scenes meetings this summer on some of the bills that I've been working on. And some of these are pretty big bills that will have a tremendous positive impact on health care, on our workforce, and moving things forward is related to helping people get off of drug addiction. So I'm working on a number of bills along those lines. But I've been having a lot of meetings with groups that have interest in those things. For example, we're working on the Medicaid Transition Act that would create a process for people who have behavioral health issues that end up in the emergency room. Mm-hmm. Right now, a lot of our emergency rooms, including IRMC, which is one of the partners that I've been working with to try and develop this legislation, they don't have a clear process on how to deal with those types of patients. And oftentimes, it's bad for the emergency room faculty or the facility. It's bad for the patient because those patients end up being stuck at the hospital without getting the proper care that they need. So I'm working with a lot of healthcare providers to develop this legislation to create that process, working with the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services. But those are the kind of things that happen behind the scene that maybe people don't realize, and that's really what the bulk of your time back in the district is spent on. Plus, we are still dealing with the unemployment compensation nightmare, fraud. I'll give you an example of fraud. I got a letter that told me I was ineligible for unemployment compensation. I never applied for unemployment compensation.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show how widespread the fraud is that we're dealing with. So our offices, my district staff have been working, a lot of hours trying to help people navigate the unemployment compensation system. We're still working on election integrity and plan to reintroduce House Bill 1300 again when we get back in the fall. Planning fall events, looking forward to some of the community events. We're going to be getting back into having town hall meetings, planning a concealed carry event with Sheriff Fyock. So there's a lot of work while we're here in the district, and I'm excited about that. And I can go on and on. I've been attending, you and I were just talking about some of the policy hearings and other things that continue to occur throughout the summer. I've been to several policy hearings on trying to restart and grow Pennsylvania's economy. So I think I said enough for this part. Let you talk a little bit, Todd.
All right, take a breath for a second.
Yeah.
And that unemployment fraud, man, that took off like a California wildfire, didn't it?
It's ridiculous. And at a time when people are still trying to get unemployment when they actually need it. And this simply bogs down the whole system because now you have a lot of investigations that occur.
Yeah.
And, they have to do extra checks to make sure that the people who are applying for unemployment are actually those people. So my staff, and it happens every day, people are in and we're actually walking through the system with them. And, we're here to help people, but really it falls on labor and industry. They should be the ones fixing this problem. And we're here to help and do everything we can to help our constituents, and we're happy to do that. But it's really disheartening that the Department of Labor and Industry isn't taking this problem more head on with more people, actually in their offices doing the work to answer these phone calls.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple of things. The Codys Law legislation.
Yes.
That's one of your real pet projects that it's just having a tough time getting over the finish line. And I know it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of talking to people in the other chamber.
It does.
In order to make this thing come together. What's the hang up with it?
Well, I spoke with the Senate Judiciary Committee director when we were in Harrisburg working on the budget. And obviously everyone was focused on the budget, but this bill has to get across the finish line. I introduced it last session, reintroduced it again this session. I think part of the problem is that the concern that was expressed to me, at any rate, was that they're concerned that more and more offenses are being considered aggravated assaults. And I think there needs to be a balance apparently between some of these proposals and fairness. I assume to the criminal justice system. But I'm not giving up on it. I speak with Senator Pittman often. He's aware that the bill is in the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm going to follow up with them again, which we had planned to do after the budget over the course of the summer to see what we can do to maybe amend the bill or change the bill somewhat to get it over the finish line. But we definitely have to keep pushing for Codys Law.
Well, in a violent world that's getting increasingly violent, I wouldn't think this would be a problem at all. But you've seen those discussions and the way they go.
Well, that's the challenge when you're dealing with the General Assembly. You have 203 House members, 50 members of the Senate, and they look at the world differently than we do. And you have to try and make people see, at least the majority of people see that the bills that you're trying to pass are good bills that will help people. Mm-hmm. That's like I was saying earlier in our segment here. It's a lot of working through those issues and making sure that you deliver a product that not only meets the needs of your constituents and helps people, but can also get across the finish line and be signed by the governor into law.
Couple of issues I want to get to before we're out of here this morning. State system redesign.
Yes.
You were part of that presentation the other day with Chancellor Greenstein. What do you take away from that?
Well, I think that there's a sense of direction now for the state system. It was a joint hearing between the House Appropriations Committee, which I am on, and the House Education Committee. And it's a regular update that we receive from Chancellor Greenstein on the PASHE reintegration plan. And so, I thought the hearing was good. I think that he conveyed, that it's going to be a work in progress. But I asked the question, what's the feel? What's the energy like amongst faculty, amongst administration? And he seemed to indicate to me that it was positive, that now that they know that I can't think of the name. What is it? Redesign has been approved by the Board of Governors, that they can now move forward with a unified direction so that they can have, energy moving in the right direction for all parties, for faculty, for students, for the administration, and get to a product that will really make the state system stronger and more competitive. And like some of my colleagues said, now that we see that efforts are being made to redesign the system, to be more fiscally responsive to the budget needs, then it makes it easier for us to allocate for more funding for the state system. We really have to get the state system back to where it's affordable. That's what it was intended to be. And we really, I think, to convince some of our other colleagues who don't think the same way or who don't have a state system school, in their district, we need to show that that is occurring before we can push for more money in the budget to lower tuition costs.
I know that one of your concerns is that it is legitimately a positive development because there are plenty of folks who are saying that the numbers don't make sense. So you need to make sure, and you're working on that, hearing from everybody involved that this makes sense and that it's going to work.
It absolutely does. And some of these universities that we're talking about within the state system, we're losing millions of dollars annually. And those funds have to be subsidized by the universities that are physically solvent, and that's institutions like IUP. So, the whole system works out of one checkbook, and when you have several universities that are simply failing, that's not sustainable. So I think that the system redesign is going to be good. From what the chancellor said, you really won't see those changes occur until 2022, and hopefully they will see whether it's successful or not by 2024 or 2025.
You get the sense that this is a one last chance for state system?
I wouldn't say that. I think it's one last chance for some of these schools to remain open and to keep their own identities. I think that was a big part of this, keeping all the sports teams intact, keeping the schools for their alumni, to keep those names together. But if this doesn't work, you may have to look at closing some facilities, and no one wants to see that happen because we know firsthand how important it is to have a strong university in your community. Yeah. So I think this is a good step forward, and I truly hope that it works out.
Couple of minutes left with State Representative Jim Struzzi. Got to get your reaction to the COVID resurgence. The Delta variant is really hitting hard, and we have to find our defenses and really stand up here, don't we? Tough stuff. It's
very concerning. You hate to see this happen again, and we certainly don't want to go through what we went through last year. If people want to get the vaccination, I encourage them to do that. I think that everybody has to work together to make sure we're doing the right things here. There's just so many things that are happening right now that are of concern, causing stress on people's lives. getting back into COVID shutdowns, closures, restrictions is not going to be good for our society. Already, you see businesses that can't find employees that are struggling to even be open, for a full week. And it's very concerning to me. And I hope that we don't have to go back to Harrisburg this fall and deal with another battle with the governor, because clearly, as we've discussed in this session, Todd, there are important pieces of legislation that we need to move through, and I don't want to see us get bogged down again dealing with COVID issues.
All right, another minute left. When you do get back to Harrisburg, what are the things that you want to see come up first?
Well, I want to see my bills move forward, clearly. Some discussion this week on my fentanyl test strip legislation. Overdose deaths are the highest they've been since 2017, and a lot of those are related to fentanyl. There's going to be a policy hearing this fall on property tax elimination. That hasn't been at the forefront of discussions because of all these other things that have come forward related to the pandemic, but property taxes are still a prime issue for many of us in Harrisburg, and I know that's important to many people here in Indiana County. And I know that there's some Second Amendment bills that are important that we'd like to see move forward. So I think there's a lot of key legislation that's in the works right now, and I hope that we can get back to working cohesively with both sides of the aisle to make that happen.
Yeah. Do you foresee a new mask mandate?
I hope not. I think that it should be voluntary for people. Just like the vaccination, I think that people should be able and capable of making their own health care decisions.
Yeah. He is State Representative Jim Struzzi. Thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely, Todd. Thanks for having me.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM and AM 1160. We're 2 minutes away from the top of the hour. Fox News coming your way then, and then Josh Whittison in our